Today is Thursday, and normally on Thursdays I would have 4th and 6th grade students in the library playing chess at lunch. So the nonfiction book I'm sharing today is Killer Chess Tactics, which I checked out of the public library. This is another example of a nonfiction book where you can not only learn new content, but actual skills you can apply. So, for example, inside this book they have pictures of game boards from famous games in history of chess. And they have the tactics and strategies that the players use to win or otherwise control the board at a certain time. So the problem with a book like this is if you don't know how to read chess notation, you won't be able to use that. And we haven't talked a lot about chess notation in our club. So let's look at this one. On the bottom of page 20, you see some bold letters at the far right. These letters actually tell you how the pieces are moving on the board. So the B stands for bishop, H2 stands for where it ends on the board. So if you look at the board, you see that the letters are across the bottom of the board and the numbers are up on the side. This is like a coordinate grid. So when we say bishop to H2, that means that the bishop that's currently on F4, let me see if I can show you that, the pen, this bishop here is going to move down to this spot, H2. And the other part of the notation, the plus sign, means that that is now putting this king in check, and the exclamation point is just the author's way of saying this was a great move. And then the next part of it is the king goes to H1. Because the king will be in check, it has to do something about that, and the move that the player made in this game was to go to H1. And that is really the only move it had. We'll look at that on the picture of the board in just a minute. So here's a picture of my board all set up in the same way that the drawing was on the book. And you can see again that I have my bishop here on F4. And I'm going to pull it down here to H2. Let's see that on the next screen. And there it is. And you can see that this is now checking the king. And the king can't capture the bishop that's attacking him because the rook is protecting that whole rank or that whole file. And so the king really only has one move. He has to move this way to H1, which was the other part of that notation in the book that we just saw. And so now that the king has made his move to H1, that frees up this bishop to move up here to E5 and capture the pawn. And what makes this a discovered check is in the next move, the king is going to realize that he is in check again by the rook, which is revealed when the bishop moves. In the book, it says that the king, the white king, then retreats to G1. But I think that he has a better move at this point because moving back to G1 just allows that bishop to come back and put him back into check. What move would you make? The move that I would make is to use my pawn to remove the attacking piece on H3. And that's a legal move for that pawn. It's a better move in terms of removing a very valuable piece from the opponent's arsenal. And it frees up a lot of space for your king to travel. He's not stuck in that one corner where the bishop and the rook can wreak havoc on him for a long, long time if he doesn't get out of it. So even though I'm reading a nonfiction book written by an expert, I'm still using my brain to connect the knowledge that they're giving me with what I already know to fit that new information into the best use for my purposes. So I hope you're still reading some good nonfiction books, keeping your brain turned on, thinking and questioning the world around you. See you soon, I hope.